we shall be starting the inaugural program. Welcome to the inaugural program of the 13th International Conference on Ethics Education, organized under the aegis of the International Association of Ethics in Education and hosted by St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences. I am Dr. Farah Fatima, and this is my co-host, Dr. Manjulika Vas, and we will take you through the inaugural program. To begin the program, I request the dignitaries to please take their seats on the dais. I request Most Reverend Bishop Gerald John Matthias, Bishop of Lucknow, and the Chairperson of the Bioethics Forum of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India to please occupy the dais. I request our volunteers to escort the dignitaries on the dais. Dr. Bhagavan, Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Dr. Gangadhar BN, Chairperson of the National Medical Commission of India. Dr. Henk, President-elect of the International Association for Education in Ethics and Professor in the Center for Healthcare Ethics at Duquesne University, Pittsburgh. Reverend Father Jesudas Rajamanickam, Director, St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences. Dr. George D'Souza, Dean, St. John's Medical College. Father Charles Davis, Chairperson IAEE, Organizing Chairperson for this conference and Director, Bioethics Forum of CCBI.
Good morning, everyone. The 13th International Conference on Ethics Education is an internationally recognized event that brings together thought leaders, educators, and practitioners from various fields to address the pressing ethical challenges of our time. The theme for the conference is Ethics Education, an imperative for future generations. This conference has delegates from around 12 countries, multiple continents, and across disciplines of philosophy, theology, law, medicine, engineering, bioethics, social sciences, climate sciences, technology, and the arts.
Let's begin the inaugural session by invoking the blessings of the Almighty. I request all the dignitaries on the dais and the members of the audience to please stand up for the prayer session. I request Most Reverend Gerald John Matthias, Bishop of Lucknow and Chairperson of the Bioethics Forum of CCBI, to please lead us in prayer.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, our loving Father, source of all life and goodness, source of wisdom and knowledge, a divine comforter and healer, we thank you, we praise you, we love you, adore you, and glorify your name. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for gathering us here this morning for the 13th International Conference on Ethics Education. We implore your abiding presence and help through the guidance of the Holy Spirit to help us in all our deliberations, to help all those who are representing their papers and inputs, addresses, help us in our deliberations, help us to come to appropriate decisions which we would like to implement in our own respective healthcare institutions. We ask you to bless the organizers, the International Committee of Organizers and the local organizers, the Bioethics Forum of the CCBI. We ask you to bless all the resource persons who will be presenting the papers, and bless each one of us. We ask you, Lord, to bless us not only during this meeting or these 3 days of the conference, but bless us each day of our life, so that we may be truly ethical persons, that we may guide people on the basis of true moral principles, that we may consider every human being that comes to us for treatment as a human being, and may we have that courage and the strength to respect every human person, every human being, from the first moment of conception to the natural death. Be with each one of us who is involved in this medical apostolate, and bless all others who are today involved in organizing this event. We ask you to be with us right through this event, so that the objectives and the purposes for which this event is being organized will be truly achieved because of your abiding presence and your grace and blessing. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
We now have a hymn by the AHS students.
Thank you, students. Please be seated. So that was a praise and worship song in 3 languages, starting with English, going on to Hindi, and then Kannada. It included not only invoking the blessings of God, but also praise and gratitude for all that we have received. I request Reverend Father Jesudas Rajamanickam, the Director of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences and Chief Patron of this conference, to formally welcome the gathering.
Good morning, and a very warm welcome to each one of you. It is with great joy and deep honor that I welcome you on the 13th International Conference on Ethics Education, centered on the profoundly relevant theme, ethics education, an imperative for the future generation. On behalf of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences and the organizing committee, I extend a heartfelt greetings to all our distinguished guests, eminent scholars, respected speakers, academic leaders, faculty members, and participants from across India and around the world. We are truly privileged to be joined by His Excellency Most Reverend Dr. Gerald Matthias, Bishop of Lucknow and Chairperson of the National Bioethics Forum of the Conference of Catholic Bishops Conference of India. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your pastoral leadership and moral guidance. We are pleased to welcome you, Your Grace. And we are honored to welcome Dr. Gangadhar, Chairperson, National Medical Commission. Dear Doctor, your presence here affirms the national importance of embedding ethics in health education. We are privileged to have you here and listen to you for your keynote address. Welcome, dear Doctor. And Professor Henk den Have, President of International Association for Education in Ethics. Dear Professor, your global vision has illuminated the path of ethics education for generations, and we are honored by your presence. Welcome to St. John's and this gathering. And also, we are happy to welcome our Dr. Bhagavan, our Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Dear Doctor, we are grateful for your continued commitment to excellence in medical education. We are really privileged to have your presence with us today. Welcome, dear Doctor. Our Dean, Dr. George D'Souza, for the Charles Davis Organizing Chairperson of the conference, thank you for your leadership and tireless efforts. Welcome, dear Doctor and dear Father. Welcome. We are equally delighted to welcome our knowledge partners, the ICMR Bioethics Unit, Sochara, Ajim Premji University, Inapoya University, and other academic and policy institutions whose wisdom strengthens this initiative. Welcome, dear partners in knowledge. Welcome. To every delegate, speaker, scholar, student, and guest, your presence here affirms a shared belief that ethics is not peripheral to education, it is central. Thank you for being part of this collective journey. Welcome to this wonderful conference. Dear friends, we are honored to host this global gathering dedicated to the theme that resonates deeply with our mission, ethics education, an imperative for future generation. This theme is more than a topic for discussion. It is a call to action. The future will be shaped not only by what people know, but by how they choose to act. Ethic education is, therefore, not optional. It is imperative, a moral responsibility we hold towards the next generation. Let me briefly introduce Rev. St. John's to you. Founded in 1963 by the Catholic Bishops Conference of India, St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences is dedicated to the service of underserved through medical education, healthcare, and research. We comprise a medical college, a multi-specialty teaching hospital, a college of nursing, an institute of allied health sciences, and a globally engaged research institute. What distinguishes St. John's is not just academic excellence, but a deep-rooted commitment to values. Our ethos is captured in the abbreviation ICE, ICE, integrity, compassion, and excellence. Values that are not simply aspirational, but lived out in every classroom, clinic, and research setting. At St. John's, ethics is not a subject taught in isolation, it is a way of life. We try to nurture not only competent professionals, but also consciousness human beings with the courage to do what is right. The humanity is respect others and the wisdom to serve with the justice and love. We believe that education must shape not only the mind but the heart. Ethics education, we believe, is not just important, it is fundamental. In a world of rapid changing the technological advancement, our greatest need is not only for knowledge, but for the character. We must prepare future leaders who act with integrity, empathy, and responsibility, grounded in values, not just driven by outcomes. Institutions without ethical foundations risk losing their relevance. Dear friends, it is this shared vision that brings us together at this conference to renew our understanding, to inspire others, and to collaboratively strengthen the role of ethics in global education discourse. We are especially grateful to the International Association and also Ethics Commission for choosing St. John's as the venue for this prestigious event. This conference, therefore, is not just a scholarly gathering, it is a call to conscience. This conference calls our attention to a profound truth. Knowledge without values is dangerous. Skill without ethics is incomplete. Let this be more than a conference. Let it be a movement towards building a world that is not only smarter but kinder, not only advanced but just, not only innovative but inclusive and ethical. On behalf of St. John's family, I warmly welcome you to this campus and to Bangalore, a dynamic hub of learning, healthcare, technological innovation. May your time here be intellectually enriching, culturally rewarding, and personally memorable. May this conference be a space of honest reflection, meaningful dialogue, and new participation. Let us leave here not only with the ideas, but with a renewed purpose to shape a more ethical, compassionate, and morally resonate future for generations to come, and to shape the world where ethics is not an exception, but the expectations. Thank you, and once again, welcome to St. John's and to this celebration of ethics education. Welcome, dear friends.
Thank you so much, dear Father, for that warm welcome and for reminding us about the values and vision of St. John's. I now ask you, Father Jesudas, to felicitate Dr. Gangadhar, Chairperson of the National Medical Commission, with a shawl and a plaque. I request Dr. George D'Souza, Dean of St. John's Medical College, to felicitate Dr. Bhagavan, Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. I request Father Charles Davis, organizing chairperson of the conference, to felicitate Most Reverend Bishop Gerald John Matthias. Father Charles, I also request you to felicitate the chairperson of the IAEE, Dr. Ten Harvey. Thank you for that. In Indian tradition, lighting a lamp signifies the removal of darkness and the spreading of light, a fitting beginning to an auspicious occasion like today. As we commence this conference, I now invite the dignitaries on the dais to come forward and light the ceremonial lamp.
I now request the organizing chairperson of this conference, Father Charles Davis, to address the gathering with some opening remarks. Father Charles Davis is the Director-elect of the Bioethics Forum of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India. Father Charles, a priest of the Diocese of Jammu Srinagar, is a renowned expert in moral theology and bioethics. He holds a doctorate in theology from St. John's, Frankfurt, and has completed his habilitation in bioethics at the University of Freiburg, Germany. He currently serves as Professor of Moral Theology and Bioethics at the Albert Ludwig University of Freiburg. Father Charles has formerly served as the Associate Director of St. John's Medical College and Research Institute and a corresponding member of the Pontifical Academy for Life at the Vatican. His international experience includes pastoral service in Germany, academic roles in Pune and Frankfurt, and active contribution to global ethics education. Father.
Your Excellency, Most Reverend Dr. Gerald Matthias, Bishop of Lucknow and Chairperson of the National Bioethics Forum of the Conference of Catholic Bishops of India. Honorable Dr. Gangadhar, Chairperson, National Medical Commission of India. Respected Dr. Bhagavan, Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Professor Henk ten Harvey, President of International Association for Education in Ethics, an initiative of the UNESCO. Reverend Father Jesudas Rajamanickam, Director of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences. Dr. George D'Souza, Dean of St. John's Medical College. Dear knowledge partners, distinguished colleagues, executives, scholars, and esteemed guests. First of all, I am grateful to Professor Dr. Henk ten Harvey for requesting us to host the 13th International Conference on Ethics Education 2025 in India. I am happy that the International Association for Education in Ethics, IAEE, the only global platform devoted to ethics education, has accepted us, St. John's, as an ideal host. and we are here today with a dream come true. St. John's Medical College has been a leader in introducing medical ethics into medical teaching from its inception in 1963. At this juncture, I am also deeply honored to welcome each one of you to the international conference. This year's theme, Ethics Education, an Imperative for Future Generations, invites us to reflect on the profound responsibilities of educators, thinkers, and global citizens in decision making that will shape the moral framework for future generations. We are privileged to receive about 320 participants for the main conference and nearly 150 for the pre-conference yesterday from different parts of India and the world. 30 participants from different countries, about 12 other countries in the world. The idea of hosting international conference in Bangalore came first with a meeting of Dr. Manjulika with Professor Tenhave and Monsignor Renzo in Warsaw in June 2022. Subsequently, when I met them during our annual assembly of the Pontifical Academy for Life in the Vatican City, the idea became clearer, and eventually in November 2022, we got the approval of the Executive Committee of St. John's through Dr. George D'Souza, the Dean. Since then, we have heard hundreds of meetings offline and online. We were fortunate to have an absolutely committed and dedicated team of committees and subcommittees overseen by 5 organizing secretaries. Dr. Manjulika Vas, Dr. Sunita Simon Kurpat, Dr. Maya Mascarenas, Dr. Nachiket Shankar, Dr. Jyoti Idikula, ably assisted by Ms. Sara at the Secretariat, and Dr. Priya Paez, assisted by Ms. Santosh Mary. Forgive me because I am not able to mention all the members of the committees and subcommittees. Many of you have contributed enormously for this conference. I would like to make a special mention of all our knowledge partners, donors, and supporters. A big thanks to you. Let us all join hands together and journey together in ethics education to support our future generation. In total, we received 195 abstracts. Through rigorous review process of scholars from different countries, we accepted 62 abstracts and rejected 127. We used AI detector tool to find out the originality of the papers. We had 2 reviewers for every abstract and more when required. We have more than 20 keynote and plenary speakers, and about 20 chairs and many parallel sessions. The academic, administrative, and scientific planning, and the selection of the topics, as well as the review process and acceptance of the papers have been a humbling and learning experience. I am passionate about ethics, particularly bioethics, and most importantly, about virtue ethics. There are supererogatory or super obligatory acts that we keep doing in our lives expecting nothing in return. We call it in the Indian language nishkama karma. I experienced this while preparing for the conference. I appreciate every colleague, every faculty, every staff, every student, and every collaborator for their contribution in making this conference a reality. A couple of times I had the privilege of meeting with Professor Edmund Pellegrino, the renowned bioethicist who espoused that humanities are integral to medicine, and who is considered a leader in advocating virtue ethics. In recent years, a virtue-based ethic is gaining momentum. A virtuous physician is examined along with the virtues of trust, compassion, prudence, justice, courage, temperance, and humility. The connection between medicine, health, education, ethics, virtues, vision, mission, and humanity is very strong, and this connection has to go beyond the walls and boundaries of any institution into the grassroots in building communities, societies, and humanities with values and virtues. Without values and virtues, the world would doom sooner than later. Ethical principles and virtues are equally important in confronting such practical problems as care of the poor, research with human subjects, and the conduct of the healing relationship. At the heart of ethics of human life is the foundational principle of inviolable human dignity, which is intrinsic and universal and serves as the cornerstone of justice, equality, human rights, and ecology. These principles are not only the foundation of bioethics, but also the moral compass for a just, sustainable, and peaceful future. The inviolable human dignity, thus the respect for the right to life, takes precedence over autonomy. Autonomy without a deep recognition of our shared humanity and dignity and ecological responsibility can lead to choices that undermine the well-being of individuals, communities, and the planet. The role of ethics education is therefore of great importance to instill in our younger generation the values of dignity, responsibility, and ecological stewardship. Through education, we can equip our future leaders to face the ethical challenges of an interconnected world where human well-being and the health of the planet are inseparably bound together. As we engage in discussions over the course of this conference, let us commit ourselves to ensuring that ethics education becomes a transformative force to shape future generations in order to understand that the dignity of every person, the sustainability of our planet, and the moral principles of social justice and equality must always be upheld together. Before I end, I wish to repeat that humanity precedes state. Humanity precedes society. Humanity precedes even religion. Because humanity, the humans, are endowed with intrinsic human dignity, which is inseparable from the human condition. And humanity is inseparable from ecology. When we harm the nature will harm us. Thank you for your listening, and I look forward to the impactful and meaningful exchanges in our conference. Thank you. We have prepared the conference program and the abstracts of presentations as the book of conference highlights. May I now invite His Excellency Most Reverend Bishop Dr. Gerald Matthias and all the dignitaries on the dais to release the conference highlights. Thank you.
So this book of highlights has messages from key people organizing this conference. It has the program, it has the abstracts of oral and poster presentations, and much more. It's available on the QR code that is behind your identity tags. We're trying to be sustainable and therefore asking you to use e-copies. Thank you.
We are indeed very fortunate to have with us Dr. Bhagavan, Honorable Vice-Chancellor of the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. He is also the Ambassador for the Global Training and Education Center, Vigan, United Kingdom. He was previously the Principal of Kempegowda Institute of Medical Sciences, Bangalore. Dr. Bhagavan has over 30 years of extensive experience in medical education, healthcare, administration, and leadership. His academic achievements include the prestigious Kempegowda Award and the Times of India Healthcare Achievers Award and a Surgeon's Gold Medal Award. These are a testament to his dedication to advancing health sciences. I now invite Dr. Bhagavan to address the gathering and to give us his message.
Good morning, everybody. Dignitaries on the dais, His Excellency, Revered Gerald Matthias, Honorable Chairman of National Medical Commission, Shri Gangadhar ji, Professor Harvey, International President, Revered Father Jesudas Rajamanickam, the Director of St. John's, Dr. George D'Souza, the Dean of St. John's, Dr. Charles Davis, Organizing Chairperson of this conference. It's indeed a privilege for Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences that St. John's is organizing such a informative and most needed international conference. At the very outset, on behalf of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, I would like to welcome you all to this institution and the state of Karnataka. As you all aware, Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences has more than 1,500 medical education and paramedical allied sciences, pharmacy, nursing, Ayurveda, dental institutions under its belt. Probably it's one of the biggest in the globe to have health education institutions. And I'm very happy that St. John's, being a leading institution in imparting health related education, is under Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. It's indeed a great honor and privilege to be here today at the 13th International Association for Education in Ethics Conference. I would like to begin my expressing my deepest appreciation to the organizers. The theme of this year's conference, Ethics Education, an Imperative for Future Generations, could not be more timely, more urgent, and more relevant. In an era marked by rapid scientific advances, evolving healthcare delivery systems, and complex socio-political landscapes, the place of ethics in education and research is not just important, it is foundational. Moral education and ethics should, as you all aware, start at home and in our primary education. Indian system of education, as you are aware, was aimed at moral education and ethical education for thousands of years, and it was deeply rooted in formative years, imparting culture into our system of life. In 18th century, a keynote address was made in the parliament that India could be broken only if we can infuse Western culture, Western education into the system of India. But nobody could conquer India because of our strong foundation in ethics, in culture, and because of our moral education system. My talk will be towards the medical education from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. At Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Karnataka, we have long recognized ethics as a cornerstone of professional education and biomedical research. Our commitment is not limited to statutory obligations or regulatory mandates. Rather, it is rooted in the conviction that ethical reasoning must guide every clinical decision, every research endeavor, and every policy formulation that our students, faculty, and alumni undertake. Over the past decade, RGHS has institutionalized a range of initiatives to nurture ethical sensibilities in our academic and healthcare community. Our curricula across disciplines, be it medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, nursing, or allied sciences, embed ethical reasoning as a core competency. Students are not only taught medical ethics, but are engaged in discussions on real-world dilemmas, patient autonomy, and data integrity, the responsible use of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence and genomics. In research, we have strived to ensure that all proposals undergo rigorous ethical scrutiny through institutional ethics committees. These are not mere procedural steps, but pedagogical opportunities to reflect on the values that should shape inquiry, integrity, justice, transparency, and respect for human dignity. We are proud that RGHS now has one of the largest networks of trained ethics committee members and faculty in the country. Our recent initiatives include mandatory training modules in research ethics for all the postgraduate students and faculty, and capacity building programs in bioethics for institutional leaders. We are also planning to launch a dedicated center for ethics and professionalism at the university level, which will serve as a hub for interdisciplinary dialogue and ethics in research and education. The presence of this esteemed international forum in Karnataka is a testament to our region's growing leadership in promoting ethical standards in healthcare education. And the fact that this conference is hosted by St. John's, an institution with a legacy of ethical excellence and social commitment, makes this moment even more meaningful. Let me close by reaffirming that the future of healthcare lies not just in scientific breakthroughs, but in moral imagination. As educators, researchers, and practitioners, we must strive to raise generations who not only excel in clinical competency, but also in ethical character. We must equip them not only with knowledge, but with wisdom, compassion, and an unwavering sense of justice. To all the delegates and speakers joining us from across the globe today, welcome to Karnataka again. May your presence and participation enrich our collective understanding of how best to teach, learn, and live ethics. And may this conference inspire a renewed commitment to shaping a more just and humane future. Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences will welcome all that decision which you take today and kindly convey it to the university. We would be definitely happy to inculcate these ethical reforms and policies that all the global leaders today who have assembled here are going to make. I thank once again St. John's and the organizers, the medical education unit, Dr. Manjulika, Farah, Nachiket, and the Dean of St. John's for giving me an opportunity and organizing such a wonderful event, which will again bring credit to our state and Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the meticulous steps and the unique initiatives like the Ethics Forum that have been taken by the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences. We are indeed proud to be a part, to be affiliated with RGUHS. I now request all the dignitaries on the dais to please occupy the reserved seats on the sofas in the front row. Sirs, could you please? I request our volunteers to please escort our dignitaries.
I now welcome Professor Ten Harvey, President of the International Association of Ethics Education, to please come up on stage to deliver the inaugural address. Professor Ten Harvey, Emeritus Professor of Healthcare Ethics in the Center of Healthcare Ethics at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, USA, studied medicine and philosophy and worked in universities of Maastricht, at Nijmegen in the Netherlands, and was director of the Division of Ethics of Science and Technology at UNESCO. Since 2021, he is a research professor at the Faculty of Bioethics and Anáhuac University of Mexico. He has authored many, many books. I will just name a few, the latest being Bizarre Ethics, Ghosts, Monsters, and Pilgrims. That was in 2022, and Color, Healthcare, and Bioethics this year, 2025. Professor Ten Harvey, I invite you over to the stage to deliver your address on the theme, Why Ethics Education is Imperative.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would first like to thank the organizers of this conference, especially Father Charles Davis and Manjulika Vaz, for organizing a very interesting and conference in a very efficient way. Of course, I know there are many more people involved in the organization, and I would like to thank them also for their organizational skills and hospitality. I would like to say a few words about the International Association of Ethics Education. The organization was actually initiated by UNESCO, because UNESCO, the organization for the United Nations Organization for Education, Science and Culture, has a program in ethics education. And in this context, there was a need for a global platform to bring together the people and the experiences in the field of ethics education. So we started actually in March 2020 by bringing together a small group of experts from different parts of the globe to discuss the possibility of establishing an international association. And this association was officially established a year later in Pennsylvania. And then 1 year later, there was the first conference organized by the International Association in Pittsburgh. That was the place where I was working at that time. So that was the start of the activities of the International Association. Here you see the goals of the International Association. One goal is to exchange experiences, because we notice that many people are involved in teaching ethics, but there hardly is a lot of publications or exchange of experiences about programs, models, effective approaches. So we think it is important to create at a global level a platform where people can exchange experiences so that you can learn from activities in other parts of the world. Also, the second goal of the organization is to encourage the further development of ethics education. If we can help people to have ideas, to have examples, to have models, maybe they can start ethics educational programs in their own context. The third function is to be a global platform, a clearinghouse of experiences from different parts of the world, but also from different parts of the scientific community, because this organization is not only focused on bioethics, but also on other areas of ethics, teaching like engineering ethics, business ethics, environmental ethics, theological ethics. So in fact, all the areas of practical ethics where ethics is taught and educated are included. And the fourth goal of the organization is to make sure that there is also a further promotion of ethics education at different levels, not only at national levels, but perhaps also on regional levels and on international levels. So these are the goals, and they have, of course, very long-term goals. And the goals are mainly accomplished in two ways. One way is annual conferences, and here you see the list of conferences that we have had so far. We had conferences in the US, in Turkey, in Brazil, in Spain, also in India. And we still thank Dr. Veena Vaswani for organizing the conference in Bangalore. Also, we had a conference in South Africa, in Portugal, in the US. In the COVID times was the first online conference that we organized in Italy, Padua, in Croatia, Zagreb, in Mexico last year, and now this year here in India. And as you know, next year the conference will be in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and then a year later in Madrid in Spain. The second activity of the organization is to increase publications, to enhance the exchange of materials about ethics teaching, and we have established an international journal for ethics education, which is published by Springer Nature. And it is, if you are a member of the association, you will have automatically an electronic subscription to the journal. The journal is published 2 times a year and is explicitly focused on ethics education. And as far as I know, it's the only journal so far which is explicitly focused on ethics teaching. And we are successful because the journal now has also an impact factor and is indexed in various systems. So the background of the association, as I told you, is in fact the ethics program and the focus of UNESCO on educational activities. And UNESCO has adopted 20 years ago a first global declaration on bioethics, where all the countries of the world could agree on the basic principles of bioethics. And since then, the organization is focused on how these principles could be implemented in diverse countries. And they have set up a program of collecting information, a global ethics observatory, with information about ethics teaching, ethics teachers, programs that exist, centers and institutions, but also an ethics education program where the focus is on trying to promote the teaching of ethics in all the member states of UNESCO. Maybe not so much in the developed world as well as in the developing world, where there is a need for ethics teaching and the resources are mostly limited. So in the context of this program, we have established this international association. And why this association? You can also say, well, from another perspective, ethics teaching and ethics education is still an important tool to improve the flourishing of human beings and human societies. And this is clear in a research. If you ask young people what will be the main factors in reaching success, and they can indicate whether it's education, it's hard work, or it's wealth or family connections, or maybe all three, then you see that in most of the countries, education is very well appreciated as a means of success. Especially if you look also at the data for India, this is a country where education is very much evaluated and appreciated as a way to improve your own well-being and your own flourishing. much more than some of the other countries in the list. So this is an important, let's say, asset in regard to why ethics education is an important tool nowadays to promote human well-being and human success. Now, why is ethics education imperative? If you look at the many of the publications in the journal, for example, then the argument is that ethics education, of course, in a professional context, leads to better professional conduct. But that's not all. It leads to better citizens, better people that can then create a better society. So it has a wider goal than only professional education and professional skills, but it leads to a better kind of human beings, human societies. And in that sense, you can say ethics education is imperative because it leads to cultivation of humanity in three ways. Then, in the first place, it leads to a critical evaluation of oneself and its traditions, so that we reflect upon our own condition, our own existence, and try to indicate how we can make it better. And then secondly, it also leads to the ability to regard oneself as part of a wider community and also as part of humanity, as not only an isolated individual, but as being part of humanity, a wider family of human beings that are here to improve the condition of the planet. And then third, it stimulates the imagination. How can we think not only about our own interest, but place ourselves in the shoes of other persons and think about what is good and bad from their perspective. And that's essentially also the drive of ethics. Always look beyond your own perspective and try to imagine what will be the perspective of other people. So that is essentially what ethics teaching is trying to accomplish. Now, why do we educate in the first place? Let's say confronted with all the evils and bad developments that we notice in the world, then you can ask yourself, why do we educate ethics, and is it really helpful? And then we can look at the tradition that we have of well-known educators. And St. Augustine, for example, was arguing that ethics teaching should be passionful. It should be passionate. It should be inspiring. It should not only bring knowledge and information, but it should motivate people to do better, to do something else as they used to do. So it should, in fact, inspire people to make a better world, a better existence. And another perspective is brought by the pragmatic philosopher John Dewey. And he was arguing that education also is in a way not only transformative, as Augustine has argued, but it's also conservative. It tries to identify what is important to preserve, to transmit to future generations. So it has these aspects of being transformative and at the same time trying to identify what is worth preserving. So the ultimate aim of ethics education, I would say, is transformative, at the same time conservative. Now we can summarize it by a quote of Rousseau, which is actually a philosopher who was very much promoting the use of education. And his argument is that we are born weak, we need strength. We are born totally unprovided, and we need aid. We are born stupid, and we need education. We need judgment. Everything we do not have at our birth, and which we need when we are growing up, is given to us by education. So that's the illustration of the power of education, I would argue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ten Have. Thank you for sharing with us the goals and activities of IAEE, and your enlightening talk has provided us with a good context on the importance of ethics in education. The National Medical Commission plays a pivotal role in shaping and nurturing the future doctors of our country. The introduction of the competency-based medical education curriculum in India from the batch of 2019 onwards is a major landmark in medical education in India. This new curriculum emphasizes the development of specific competencies in medical graduates to ensure that our Indian medical graduates are patient-centric, ethical, and skilled professionals. A key innovation in this competency-based medical education is the ATCOM module, which integrates attitudes, ethics, and communication into the core curriculum to nurture humane and socially responsive doctors. I proudly introduce Dr. B.N. Gangadhar, the Chairperson of the National Medical Commission of India. Dr. Gangadhar is a graduate from the prestigious Bangalore Medical College. He completed his MD in Psychiatry from NIMHANS in 1981. He has published over 450 scientific articles in peer-reviewed journals and has more than 14,000 citations. He has pioneered research in the area of yoga and psychiatry as well as electrocompulsive therapy. He is a senior professor and the former director of NIMHANS Bangalore. He is currently Professor Emeritus in the Department of Integrative Medicine at NIMHANS, in addition to being the Chairperson of the National Medical Commission of India. I invite Dr. Gangadhar to deliver the keynote address for this conference on the theme Medical Students' Education and Ethics.
A very good morning to each one of you here. Revered Sri Matthias, distinguished faculty of this institute, and also distinguished faculty of this conference, and my dear friends in the audience. As you are aware, National Medical Commission is a regulatory body. We believe in providing quality medical education to as many aspirants as possible in this country, undergraduate and the postgraduate education. Today we have close to about 200,000 admissions to the undergraduate and the postgraduate programs happening each year, and this is going to increase, and the potential that is available in our country to provide such education could be even three-folds this number. We have exploited a third of the numbers of beds which we use for medical education, and the other 2/3 is still not used. Right from the day the National Medical Commission has come to existence, the emphasis has been improving the quality, making sure the Indian medical graduate will be a prototype model of quality and the most ethical education. Having said this, there are of course several requirements, challenges that we meet, and we believe in three principles, at least I believe in three principles. The best education is possible if you have a very happy student in the college, and we have a committed teacher in this college, and we have the most satisfied patients leaving the hospital. We have these three, be assured medical education can be of good quality and with good ethics and integrity. Having said this, a couple of things to ramble on what ethics in education, and I'm very pleased that you have called me to this very important event, ethics in education, and I believe it is ethics in medical education which is happening here. That we have to have this as a separate subject is something that always surprised me. I have to recall two anecdotes during my medical education, which have impacted me very deeply, and how ethics began as a part of way of life in the medical college. We all passed out our so-called pre-university course those days, got selected to the medical school, medical college, feeling very top of the clouds, at the same time being perhaps mildly arrogant. Entered into the medical college. The first day was the very first day we had to go to that anatomy lecture hall, anatomy dissection theatre. In the first half of the forenoon was this anatomy, and the second half of the forenoon was physiology in two different batches though. So a cadaver was placed on the table. We were perhaps about 20-30 of us around that cadaver. Of course, there are several cadaver tables in which dissection was to be happening. The cadaver was placed on the table, and the person who brought the cadaver from the tank, mind you, he was not a professor, he was not a teacher, he was not a medical man. He brought the cadaver and placed it on the on the table. We were all around, maybe about 20-25 of us were around the table. And what he said rings memory and was deeply emotional to me. He said, remember, this was also a person like you, a divine person like you. Respect this body while you are learning. It is teaching you. So ethics came from there in education. And even that person whom was my teacher wasn't as literate with that PhD or MDs or whatever it is. He was the person who helped getting the cadavers from the body, from the tank, and placing it on the table and so on and so forth. Even he had that divine knowledge of letting us remember that we have to be ethical. This has remained in my memory, and ever since then I believe we have to be actually be thinking ethically and practicing ethically. Ethics, of course, as a part of life, and how we apply to medicine is the issue which I think we need to remind ourselves. The very first class on ethics we had was in the forensic medicine department class. This was not a class, it came so naturally in that person, and we were told. And the first class in ethics in the forensic medicine department, the first lecture, first, do no harm. I'm sure all of you, those of you who have read forensic medicine and those of you who will be teaching forensic medicine would know, do no harm. But I came here to do good, no? I'm told, do no harm. So this was a little paradox to me, and of course, that's the way it is taught. But if you continuously believe that you are doing good, naturally doing harm would probably take a backseat and it would not happen at all. Inadvertently, yes, that's a different issue altogether. But nonetheless, to be reminded to us, do no harm, perhaps deviates away from teaching do good. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. Be good and do good. And doing good is, of course, doing good to those people who are seeking your help, to help them. And in fact, this is the very essence of any religion for that matter. I am reminded of an anecdote which comes from Mahabharata. Ganesha writes the entire Mahabharata dictated by Vyasa. At the end of it, it's a huge epic that he has written. Ganesha is tired. The last verse has been said. He writes it, and then he asks Vyasa, if I had known that I had to write so much, maybe I wouldn't have agreed. You made me write so much. Took dictation from you, and I wrote verses after verses. It was never ending. And so Vyasa, an older man, he says, look, I have been doing the same thing all my life. Crores and crores of verses I have written. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Come up to my library, I will show you. There were so many books which Vyasa had written, the Vedas, the Puranas, or Upanishads, and whatever it is. So Ganesha asks him, why did you write all these things? So he said, I want people to be good. To be good, you have to read all this. There is no way it is possible. You have to give me an executive summary of what all that you have written. Because that is easy to remember. If you expect humans to read all these things to be good, be sure that it won't even get started. It is like a honorable court's judgment where it runs pages and pages, and you have to remember that executive summary which is last 2 lines, whether the property belongs to me or to my wife. So Vyasa takes this challenge and says, all what I have written here in crores and crores of verses, I will summarize it in half a verse. Shlokardhena pravakshyami yaduktam grantakotibihi. In half the verse I am going to tell you what I have written in all the crores and crores of verses. Paropakara punyaya papaya paripidanam. Be good, be useful to others, live for others. I was speaking to the director before coming to this meeting in the dean's office. He said the same thing. Living for others, serving for others. In fact, the word serve starts in this mission statement right here in the board here. To serve, to be of service, to live for others is the punya. Of course, I don't have an English word for punya. Whatever the good deeds that you want to earn in your life, you do that much. And that's precisely why that entire crores and crores of verses were written. And having said this, we have come here to serve. Service is our dharma. We heard it again from the stage here, Nishkama Karma. And being helpful is the part of the humane nature. That's why we are called as humans, and we don't have to learn it. It should have been our nature. And so that is the dharma of the humans, and that distinguishes us from those who were humans and who are not humans. Being human, being helpful to others, and when it comes to ethics in the medical education, I want to emphasize on 3 points. One, of course, be compassionate to your people who come to see us, those unfortunate individuals who are affected, to whom you have to be serving, and do it with the perfection of the profession, and while doing so, be inclusive. So these 3 points, if I perhaps emphasize, elaborate a little bit, perhaps my duty of having to come here and speak in this meeting would be perhaps a success. Compassion again is the word that is used there. Serve and be compassionate about it. We talk of how to be empathetic when we have to be talking to the patients. Keep eye-to-eye contact. Understand the person's emotions. Be able to read his mind from the way in which he gestures, he makes his faces, and so on, or narrates issues. Ensure that you have heard him well and show that sensitivity. Make him understand that you have understood him. Make him understand that you are compassionate. This compassion is something that has a science behind it. To be able to connect, to be able to demonstrate that I have connected with this person. Now people have researched on that, the so-called mirror neuron functions in the brain and various other circuits which perhaps activated when you are showing that compassion. And those compassionate people have different circuitry coherences which are shown in the brain. Leave this issue apart. But this compassion is something that a way I connect with people, a way I am able to emote with the person, I am able to understand the changes in the emotions of the other individuals, recognize those emotions and act, is something that one can of course learn. One has it by nature, one learns it by seeing people, but there are very many methods. But yoga is known to have that ability to develop that connectedness. I in fact have done some research on that, although that is away from this discussion today. I was prompted to look at this dimension of yoga. I went to a friend's house, very nearby though, some time back, almost 15-20 years back. His daughter was studying engineering, perhaps architecture, computer, I have no idea, whatever it is. As I was entering into her room, I saw in her room many yoga gurus, yoga postures were there. An adolescent girl in the engineering college to be attracted to yoga gurus and all that seemed very unusual to me, not odd though. I was curious, of course, adolescent girls would be perhaps attracted to many other things, but to be attracted to this made a difference. And I asked her, what made you get attracted to all these things? And she said, I'm doing yoga. Yeah, of course you are doing yoga, your father told me, but why have you become so passionate? Why have you become attracted to yoga? Then she said, I get a feeling of connectedness. I asked her, what do you mean by connected? I feel connected to the teacher who is teaching me, the people who do yoga with me, I feel connected. I feel connected to my family members. I feel connected to my classmates, the teachers in the engineering college. When I walk around, I feel connected to people around me. I'm not alone, you see, I'm not feeling anxious, I'm not alone. There are people with me. They're all divine souls. And this is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Mind you, she was not a Baba Ramdev or Shri Shri Ravi Shankar or Pandit or Sadguru talking from their philosophical learnings. But this is a ordinary adolescent engineering student gets these feelings of, I feel connected. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I am practicing yoga. And yoga made me develop these changes. True, it could be true. I have done some research on this. Yoga does produce, leave that apart. So connectedness, getting connected, empathizing, you could have many ways. As I said, it could be one's nature to do this, and that's how people become philosophers. You could well be learning it from your teachers. In fact, most of what we did, we learned from the teachers. Their astuteness in observing and the changes. In fact, I have to speak about my teacher who taught me medicine, Dr. Maya. We were undergraduate students and he was a general medicine teacher. In the ward, the resident doctor and the nurse came back and told at the end of the rounds, sir, you didn't see the file, his BP record was quite high. The moment it was said, he said, look, I have been seeing this patient for a couple of years now. Ever since you record the BP in presence of me, his BP has gone up. I'll go out, let him rest. If I record again, his BP will be normal. This, we of course have heard this white coat phenomena, etc., etc. But the point is, he knew that this person was reacting like this. He understood this person. The second time I had a stint on this was a senior psychiatrist colleague of mine, of course my teacher is no more now, Dr. Narayanan. He was seeing a patient who I went and presented. In front of him, this patient was sitting there. The patient whom he was seeing, it was a follow-up. Then he told me one finding that he saw on the patient's face, he was blinking a little more than usual. We had missed out. And Dr. Narayanan said, We asked him curiously, sir, how did you pick up this? No, I've been seeing him for so many years. This is not the frequency with which he would blink. It may be normal for all of you, nothing abnormal, this is not a clinical sign, but I know a small difference that happens in him. That happens because he cared for the patient, he has been observant on the patient, and this small difference, of course, those days he taught us any increased blink is a forerunner of tardive dyskinesia, which of course we did talk about it later on, that's a different issue. So this feeling for the individual ensure that you observe a lot of things. Think of all mothers who took care of the infants and the children. They understood them better. Think of that mother who was serving you. She knew what food you liked most and what you ate most. So this feeling of to the patient comes only when you think that this person is a divine individual like you and me. If we see the illness in him, that pneumonia, or if we see that organ which is cirrhotic liver, if we see that laboratory report, hyponatremia in this individual, and just read that, perhaps we have missed the woods for the trees. I have to give my own experience. A friend of mine who admitted his patient in a very prestigious hospital. He was also a doctor, my friend, and his father was admitted in the hospital, and he told me a narrative. Every time he went to the ward in the ICU, of course he wouldn't stay in the ward, ICU nobody was allowed to stay, and every time he went in the morning to the ward, the senior resident or whoever came out, one day he would say, sir, all his fluid output, urine output is good. The next day he would say, sir, his sodium levels have stabilized. And third day, sir, the ABG perfect. He told me, on all the 3 days, this person never once told me, sir, your father is fine. So this is something that again rings a bell in my mind, that we have to see this person as a whole, treat him, and that's where our compassion perhaps comes through. While we do, well, of course, we can be compassionate, we can feel for the patient, we want genuinely that person to get better, we see that hole in him, not just that organ, all that may be fine. At the same time, our business with that person as a medical individual has to be with that perfection. Perfection both in terms of the knowledge, the skills we apply, and of course the professionalism we show in the process. There it comes the integrity. Integrity means not just being truthful or being ethical, and I think it's beyond that as well, that the entire knowledge that I have acquired, I have to use it here, use it most skillfully and on that given individual at the appropriate time. If this doesn't happen, perhaps the entire learning has not been a perfect one. In fact, perfection in our profession has to be a part of our life, and this is what the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. If you have to be a yogi, a devoted person doing any service to the individual, which is the Nishkama Karma, that karma also has to be perfect. Why perfection? Because that karma is a part of devotion, a part of that archana, the part of that puja to that Lord. If you view karma as a mere activity, mere action, mere service, or mere employment, perhaps this devotion doesn't come. The devotion mixed karma will be that perfect karma. And in fact, the entire karma is swakarmanam tamabhyarcha. That is, the actions of what you are doing, the activities are the prayers to the Lord. And in fact, the Shankaracharya also says the same thing. In all activities of my life is prayers to that Mahadeva. Yadyat karma karomi tattadakhilam shambho tavaradhanam, he says. Whatever I do is service. So if I have to be doing that service to others, service to the Lord, prayer to the Lord, that with that perfection, every action should be happening. So that perfection is equally important as part of learning the ethics, being ethical in our education, ethical in our practice, and so on. And the last is be inclusive in our education. This is something that not often emphasized. When I am saying inclusivity, is that inclusive, it is not just the disease and the treatment. You have to be inclusive about several things that the person is practicing, person is aware of. Of course, we do a couple of things. We ask, are you taking alcohol, are you smoking, are you exercising? Some of those things, we really don't ask him about his feelings, his faith, his practices and other things. This may be important. In fact, many researchers have demonstrated in surveys that in fact a spiritual orientation of the given individual is not asked many often by doctors, but they feel, I wished it was asked. Many patients who come to, for example, modern medicine hospital like this would have been using several of the traditional treatments, faith-based treatments, or even treatments that have been authorized to be delivered through other systems of medicine. But we don't ask them. Perhaps they also not divulge this, they would rather hide it because there is a negative reaction from us to them. So because we are exclusive, we are not inclusive. Why we have to be inclusive? Not merely because to make sure the other person's sentiments are preserved and I don't hurt the professionals of other systems of medicine. It is not just that etiquette, but I think it is beyond etiquette. Even for medicine, we need to know these things. There are a lot of interactions that happen, and people do take several such treatments, even home remedies for that matter. If we don't ask, we will not know whether there were any interaction that is unexpected in this given individual that has happened. The same inclusiveness ought to also happen in other practices of medicine, but I believe that we need to know other systems of medicine to the extent that we understand how our medicines perhaps can interact and how the course of illness has perhaps changed. This is a different individual than the other individual. So to be able to understand this also, some inclusivity in education is perhaps required, although it is difficult to emphasize that for various other reasons which I don't want to discuss at this point of time. So essentially, ethics, education ethics, medical education ethics comprises of several of these things, and above all these things, we as regulators also thought of several ethics. The three things which again I have to mention this. One is trust, respect and promote. When I say trust, as a regulator, there are close to 1,000 medical institutions I need to perhaps regulate, ensure that they are inspected, ensure that everything is provided there in those medical colleges or institutions to the students. So I do a lot of inspections, a lot of verifications. I think should also trust that these institutions are doing a wonderful job. In fact, if 1,20,000 undergraduate students are getting educated, it is because half the colleges are from the government and half the colleges are from the private medical colleges. But for the fact that I trust them, I would continuously feel very suspicious and paranoid. And not a good thing to happen to me. Trust. Respect. I must respect the procedures that they are following, adherence that they are holding to things, and I don't have to necessarily go below a dignity of the, like one example I can say is that, for example, when the inspector goes, make sure he will ask all the faculty to assemble in the hall, close the door at 10 o'clock, count the number of people who are here, call their attendance, make them sign in front of the register. This was something that the group in the National Medical Commission felt was not treating our own colleagues with the dignity that they deserve. So we changed over to a biometric attendance system that we get a report of who are all there, who are all working. I don't have to necessarily do this very menial, perhaps not very dignifying activity. The whole process, in addition to this, we also have to actually promote medical education. One of the ingredients of medical education and the ingredient of medical education is the hospital resources, the patients, the outpatients, the procedures, the laboratories, and so on and so forth. So patient numbers, if I know, I don't have to again go and find out whether these patients are there in this ward, or these patients are there in this ward, disturbing the entire system there. We are now progressing to what we may call as the ABHA ID based hospital data, which we are going to be having with us. In fact, as an attempt we did in the last academic year, did not inspect any colleges, but for the new colleges, all the old colleges, we said, you tell us how many patients you are treating, how many surgeries you are doing, how many deliveries that are happening. So we believe this trust and promotion should happen. And the next level of promotion, we believe, is that if I know from the basis of this attendance data of the faculty, the patient load that they are having, the surgeries that they are doing, the investigations that they are performing, all put together, can I come up with a suggestion? Look, in your college, you could probably train more medical doctors, more postgraduates you could train. Can I take that role of facilitating and promoting as well? So this is the part of the ethics that as the National Medical Commission wanting to imbibe, and I have already mentioned some of the ethics in education that I would want to see in all the medical colleges and medical students, postgraduates as well, and let ethical way of life become a part of our life and apply those morals and ethics of our life to relevant situations in medical practice. With these few words, I thank the organizers for letting me come here and share a few things, and wish you all the best for the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your message and sharing the Indian philosophy of Paropakara Punyaya, which means always do good, Vasudeva Kutumbaka, being connected with everything around you, and Nishkama Karma, striving for perfection in everything which you do. These indeed are aligned with the theme of our conference. As we come to the end of our inaugural session, I'd like to invite Dr. Manjulika Vas to propose the formal vote of thanks.
I'm honored to be delivering this vote of thanks on behalf of the executives of St. John's and the conference organizing committee. I begin by thanking the Almighty for bringing us together and giving us this opportunity to work with the International Association of Ethics Education to learn, to grow through this conference. Thank you, Most Reverend Bishop Gerald Matthias, for invoking the blessings of God upon us. I thank our dignitaries, Honorable Vice-Chancellor of our Health University, Dr. Bhagavan, for gracing this occasion with his presence, your words of encouragement, of endorsement and support towards ethics education. I thank our chief guest, Honorable Chairperson of the National Medical Commission, Dr. Gangadhar, for making time from his very, very busy schedule, not by just fitting us in, but actually taking the trouble to be here and give us this most engaging and powerful address, talking about ethics as a way of life. I wish to thank our director, our deans, for their unstinting support, and the executives, the faculty, my fellow organizing secretaries and their teams for the time and effort that has gone into planning this conference. Above all, I would like to thank Reverend Dr. Charles Davis for being a rock, the administrative and conceptual foundation on which this conference has been built. A big thank you to our knowledge partners, Dr. Roli Mathur, Professor and Head of ICMR Bioethics Unit, NCDIR Bangalore, Dr. Veena Vaswani, Director, Center for Ethics, Yenapoya University, Mangalore, Dr. Arima Mishra, Director, School of Development, Azim Premji University, Bangalore, Dr. Prafulla Sarigram, Secretary, Society for Community Health Awareness Research and Action, Dr. Ramesh, Secretary, Research Society, St. John's Medical College, for really making this conference a truly collaborative effort across disciplines and sectors. We thank our well-wishers and donors, big and small, who have contributed to the organizing of this conference. We thank members of the press who are with us today. You may have seen the artwork at the back of this conference book of highlights. I want to thank Dr. Rakesh Ramesh, the head of surgical oncology, who has switched his scalpel for a brush and palette and has inspired us to look deeper into the theme of our conference and the complex challenges of our times. It's been titled, When Survival Cuts Deep. Our gratitude to Dr. Ryan Fernandez, who has helped tremendously with getting the Ministry of External Affairs clearances and getting visas for our foreign delegates. We are trying to be as sustainable as possible. The folders, the pens, the notepads, the lanyards are all made with upcycled material. A big thank you to my colleague Radhika Hegde from the History of Medicine Department for getting this done. I could go on. There are a number of people who I would need to mention, but I must say the vibrance of this conference is undoubtedly due to you, dear delegates, 300 of you who have registered, bring in such varied and rich scholarship, thus enriching our conference and our learning. Our topics range from structural discrimination and non-compliance to digital immortality to ethics education in the age of neural organoids. Do look at the entire program and make the most use of this learning opportunity. Our thanks to our students who sang that invocation song, the numerous volunteers, people who have worked backstage handling logistics, rapporteurs, and finally my co-anchor, Dr. Farah, thank you. Thank you, Namaskara, Jai Karnataka, Jai Hind. Please stand for our national anthem.
शुभ